All right, it's 6 o'clock. Why don't we get started? Any objection to that?
Nope.
Not on my part.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the first of three budget ordinance reviews. We've had several meetings already about the budget. Tonight, we will be discussing the budget and then introducing the ordinance. Let's call the roll. Let's start alphabetically tonight with Councilmember Briner,
Here.
Councilmember Fry,
She's meant to join virtually, but I do not. Oh, she's in the waiting room. She needs to be promoted.
All right, let's say that she is here on her behalf and let's get her promoted. Councilmember Garces.
Neither
Let's
in the
pass.
room nor online.
All right, we'll mark him as not here presently, and we will announce him when he arrives. Next is Councilmember LeGloahec.
Present.
Present. Okay, Councilmember Tansey
Present.
and Councilmember Wade.
Present.
Okay, hearing a quorum present, the meeting is convened. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And can I ask for a volunteer, perhaps one of our two new council members, to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
You do it every day, don't you?
No.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, that wasn't bad. Okay, let me start with a couple announcements, and then we will move to resident input. First off, thank you all for clarifying that the pride flag raising will be on June 7th at 10 a.m. I raise the issue here because I want to ask if there are council volunteers who would like to participate in the drafting of the pride resolution that we will be adopting at the June town meeting. So think about that, and let's convene offline to discuss council members who want to participate in that drafting. Item number two, Mr. Galloway, I want to invite you, if you want later, to give any kind of update on the extreme weather events we've had in town. If you want to wait a week, that's also fine. Third, I want to inform the public now that the council will be going into closed session at 7:30 this evening, as was advertised publicly.
Said something about
for
your speaking language.
What?
Never mind.
Okay. Thank you. Next to last for me, Mayor's Hours will be on Saturday the 24th in the Tucker Pavilion during the market from 9:30 to 11. I'll talk about that again next week. And then lastly, we are going to go into resident input now, but I do want to treat the budget discussion like a work session. And so I think what I want to ask is Mr. Galloway to break up the discussion this evening by, maybe into four parts: the administrative part, police, public works, and then the capital portion. And after each segment, we'll have council questions and discussion and invite any public discussion of the previously discussed section. That is it from me. Let us now move on to the next item, which is resident input. Is there any resident input?
Mayor, quick question before we go into resident input. We confirmed the date is June 7th for the flag raising. What's the time? So I'll make sure I mark that.
10 o'clock in the morning at the town hall flagpole.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, and Councilmember Briner and others, Councilmember Fry and others who corrected my confusion about the date and the time. So again, it will be Saturday, June 7, pride flag raising at the flagpole at Town Hall at 10 a.m. and then at the town meeting at which we will also adopt the budget, we will promulgate a Pride Month resolution. Is there any resident input, either in person or, of course, I cannot see online?
Mayor Watson, do we need to approve the agenda formally before we go into resident input? It's
You
on
are
the agenda
correct.
to approve the agenda.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I forgot that. And yes, thank you for that point of order. You are correct. So is there a motion from the council to approve the agenda as published?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, that motion was made by Vice Mayor Briner and I believe seconded by Councilmember LeGloahec.
That's correct.
Is there any discussion amongst the council? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? And I believe the agenda is adopted 4-0. And let us proceed with the agenda. Thank you again. Is there any resident input?
Yes.
Mike?
Thank you. All right, thank you. My name is Lane Thompson. I'm a resident of Ward 3 in Cheverly. Taking some time to look over the budget. Obviously, this has been a long process. It's really detailed. Tremendous amount of work has gone into it. So thank you for that. This is coming at a comment at the tail end of the budget process. So maybe it should be viewed as more forward-looking towards the 2027 budget process. But the very first item, as you open this and you see the revenue from a resident, what I see is the tax rate. I'm very pleased that for 2025, that real estate tax rate did not rise as compared to what it was. For 2026 budget, it didn't rise as to what it was for the 2025 budget. However, that rate has raised twice in recent terms, and I would be very pleased if in 2027's budget, at least, if it can't be accomplished for the 2026 budget, if we can see that go down towards more of the levels it was at in 2022, perhaps as a big aspiration for this council to undertake on behalf of its residents. Doing that means hard choices. I know that. I know that every single item in this budget was thought about, and every different project is of value to different residents for different reasons. So I recognize that there are hard choices, but I really think it's imperative that we lower this rate, and I ask you to think about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Is there other resident input at the top of the meeting? Are we reasonably confident there's no one in the waiting room?
Yes.
All right, going once. Going twice. All right, that concludes resident input portion of the agenda. The one announcement that I forgot to make is that I want to thank Councilmember Fry for pointing out the council members and mayors need to take open meeting training if you have not taken it lately. I want to underscore that. I will endeavor to say that again next week, but please, at the outset of your term, take the free online open meetings training. Without public service announcement, Mr. Galloway, the floor is yours to begin.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and Council, Town of Cheverly. First and foremost, I want to compliment staff on producing such a wonderful document. I'll go ahead and get started with doing a high-level overview for the Mayor and Council. And Mayor and Council, at any point, if you have any questions, please let us know. We will begin with page 6. Okay, Mayor and Council, this is pretty much the summary of the revenue and the expenditures. As you'll see here, I do want to clarify something because it's giving a terrible indication. At the year-to-date actuals, it appears that we're $3 million in the, we're taking $3 million out of our fund balance. That's not accurate. There's money that we've had to pay for the Public Works building that was allocated in there. I'll have Diane explain that to you all so that you can have a better understanding of what our fund balance is and how much really was taken out. At the next meeting, I'll also have Diane, provide that information and give you all what our current fund balance is. It's over $5 million. So I did want to address that in the opening comments. So let's go to page 9. Let's skip down to page 9. So, Mayor and Council, the first portion of this are the taxes, real estate taxes. This year, it was the goal of the staff and the mayor and council to keep this at a flat tax of 0.5799 and 0.75 for the residential and for the multi-section, the apartment, for the apartments. In doing so, the assessment value of the residential properties increased. Thus, we will be receiving more in taxes. So, the proposed at the proposed tax rate, we will be receiving $5,582,000. We'll go down to TPP utilities. That's $175,000. TPP business. That's $350,000. Local income taxes. I know that there was some discussion about this one. We feel pretty confident based off of the projections of, when this is estimated and when this is budgeted for this line item, that we will hit 1.215. Okay. Hotel and motels, we're expected to hit our 110,000 and, for this year. And so we put the same for next year. Highway user is a number that was given to the town by MDOT. Every year they decide on the amount that each municipality will receive. As a result of all that, $7,806,963. Are there any questions from that point right now? Okay. Seeing no questions, we'll continue to go down to license and permits. The only thing there that I wanted to highlight were the town, the rental housing license and the cable television franchise. We get those on a yearly basis. The cable television is pretty much the agreement that we have with Verizon and Comcast for communication. That's an allocated amount of money that we receive on a yearly basis. As it relates to the rental housing license, a huge chunk. Excuse me. Okay, I'm sorry. A huge chunk of the rental housing license is from the Cheverly Station Apartments, where we receive about $55,000 of that, and then the remaining $10,000 is from private rentals in the town. Are there any questions as it relates to any of this right now? Okay, well, we'll go down to the intergovernmental program open space. That's $150,000. Right now, that's sitting there because the town is trying to get additional grant money for the ADA path for Kilmer Park. That is what we're working on, and that has been sitting there until we find additional monies to supplement that path. The disposal fee rebate has been at a steady rate. The police protection grant is a number that's decided by the state. They've indicated to us that we should be receiving that amount of money in this upcoming fiscal year, so that's what we put there. As it relates to the General Assembly bond bill for 1.4 million, that was allocated for FF&E towards the William Ely Public Works Building. The federal earmark that you see for 1.6 million, that money is for stormwater mitigation. We received a federal earmark a year and a half ago from Congress to mitigate some of the flooding that we've had in the past. And the state earmark is for a study to be done on the neighboring side of 50 in Ward 6 to help with a study to study the erosion of people's yards. So right now, that's what that money has been allocated for. Are there any questions right now as it relates to the intergovernmental section? Okay, we'll continue. The service charges, we have the park pavilion fees, the lot maintenance private property. That's when we pay someone to go in. No, I'm sorry. That's when we receive the money for private property maintenance. And the residential parking is the money that we receive for the actual parking tickets and the placards to put inside of their actual vehicles for special zoned areas. This is pretty much explanatory. Are there any questions there? Seeing none, I will continue. Fines and forfeitures. Red
Sorry,
light.
Mr. Galloway, sorry about that, real quick. The lot maintenance private, can you explain a little more detail and I guess the actuals of the fiscal budget 2025 and the actual actuals for this year? Why is it so low? 43110.
Yeah, I see it. It's because that was as of February 28th of 2025. I believe those numbers have been highlighted, but updated. However, that's the payment back to the town from the town putting a lien on houses. Just assuming that they've violated some type of code violation, and we're receiving that cash back.
Got it. Yeah, I just want to make sure that was clear because I do get a lot of, not a lot, but some calls regarding lots not being maintained for individuals not living, not taking care of their lots. So definitely in the future, want to make sure that the owners of these lots are responsible for maintaining their property in the future. So I look forward to making sure that happens in the future.
What are you talking about?
For certain lots in Ward 1 where the lots are not being maintained. So I received calls regarding that in the past, and definitely look forward to making sure that we take care of those particular lots. Not saying it's not being taken care of, but I have received calls regarding that, and look forward to working with to make sure that happens in the future.
Cool. Look, and in the event that you do receive calls or any council receive calls, please forward those correspondences to us so that code can take care of that. I have a database where I can give you live information to let you know if these lots have been cited or what the status is. Sometimes whenever people make a call, we're probably in the beginning portion of our code phase in which we've provided a citation, and we have to wait until that period runs out for the resident to actually take care of it before the town intervenes per our code. So we do find creative ways to take care of lots as well. But please, not just you, Councilmember Wade, but any of the council members, if you do come across something like that, please let us know, because chances are we're trying to take care of it, but we're trying to let the time or the phase work out so that we can intervene.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And is it a suggestion for the residents to use the C-Click fix? Would that
C-Click
be
fix.
for that? So just, I want to make sure everyone knows that as well, the residents. Thank you all for the job y'all done. But the C-Click fix is very helpful for everyone for tracking systems. Is that correct?
That would be great if residents could use C-Click Fix, or even if they call you and tell you about it, and you can put it in C-Click Fix. Either way, that's what I'm going to do, and that helps us with managing the progress of where this is as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions about service charges? Sir?
I looking at the actuals for the previous several years, and I question as to why we're proposing a number of 5,300 when we haven't hit that in our actuals over the past several years. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's a small number, but if we're looking to save a little bit here and there, this is one of those areas where we could, say, why are we saying 3,000 when it's clearly, it hasn't hit 3,000 in, the closest we came was 1,500 in 2024, and we haven't hit, we hit 2,100 in 24, but is 1,000 more reasonable?
I mean, I guess when I look at the category, my question would be, Mr. Galloway, is the 5,300 reasonable? Do you think you're going to hit it for FY25?
Yeah, I think the 5,300 is reasonable. I mean, and then you think about this, we also have the park pavilions. They're rented out a lot this summer going into the fall. So, I'm looking at that. We're definitely going to hit that. The lot maintenance private property. I mean, that comes in chunks. Okay. And it comes if, they're trying to do something with their house, or if they're trying to sell their house, or whatever the case may be, or if they have to pay the taxes. That's usually when we get that. I can get some updated numbers. If this is something that we want to highlight, we can, but I don't recommend adjusting this.
All right. Take us through fines and forfeitures, please.
Okay. So the one that I adjusted from our previous conversation, and if you remember, I put a lot of emphasis on this, and this was based on the meeting that I said to the mayor and council that me and the chief were going to have with Ultimate, indicating that things could be for the good or for the better. Well, we had a positive meeting with Ultimate, okay, and we received, a invoice where there is a true 60-40 match, and the current invoice. So based off of the projections of where we are this year, and just driver behavior, I needed to adjust this type of revenue, and I took this down 300,000. So now this revenue number is 1,240,000 opposed to 1,540,000. So that is the new updated number. That's one of the adjustments that I have made since the mayor and council have met on this budget.
Council, what do you think? This is a big number, $1.8 million in this category of revenue. Anyone? Councilmember, Vice Mayor.
I think it's smart to take it down and to be cautious because, as I've said before, there are so many variables around the speed camera, even though it seems to be consistently issuing citations, and because ultimately we do want the number to be lower because that means people aren't speeding.
Correct.
Any other comments?
Well, for speed cameras, it looks like our actuals are approaching the proposed budget, and that's from February. I mean, late February, but so it seems like we would hit that. Red light cameras is the one that seems low, but if you look back, it's actually a pretty consistent number. I'm not sure why it's low in February. So I agree with Councilmember Briner's overall point that we don't want to be hoping for speeding, but it currently seems like we're going to hit that number.
I'm okay if you're okay.
Would concur.
All right,
And one thing I do want to say about that is, this doesn't include the revenue that we're going to be receiving from the new red light cameras on Columbia Park Road. So, you know, I kept that number there, anticipating
Double this number right there.
revenue. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
no, it's okay.
Sorry.
Go on.
A joke.
Okay. I kept that number there, anticipating that we would at least hit that number, with an inside expectation, knowing that we'll probably exceed that based on that red light camera that will be on Columbia Park Road. As it relates to the speed camera, we will be working with a third party provider on seeking the funds of violators who have not paid. Okay, because my take on this is some money is better than no money, and we're going to be working with a vendor to go out and, you know, a debt collection company to receive those funds, so that we can get some money from the violators who have not paid. That's not going to hit this fiscal year. It'll probably be in the next fiscal year. So that's where we are with that. I feel pretty optimistic about the numbers that we put in there for the upcoming year.
All right. 450100. By the way, I hope everyone's noticed that revenue lines start with 4 and all the other lines start with 5 because they're expenditures. So anything to say about interest and dividends, Mr. Galloway?
No, nothing. I think we're definitely on board to hit that this year. We may transfer some money out of our Capital One over to that so we can draw a little bit more interest at the beginning of the fiscal year. I'll have that discussion with Diane, but as of right now, I'm going to keep that at 100,000.
Okay. Anything you want to spotlight in the miscellaneous section? 460.
Not really. I think everything there is pretty much explanatory. I don't have anything there.
All right. Council, do you have any additional questions about the $14.1 million revenue proposal? Do any members of the public have any comments regarding the $14.1 million revenue proposal? Hearing none, Mr. Galloway, who would you like to go through the general government? Is that
I'll
also
do that.
you?
Yeah, I'll do that as well.
All right, so that concludes revenue. We're going to move to the first of our 4 large expenditure categories, general government. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So the contractual and consultant services, that's pretty explanatory. I don't think that I need to highlight anything with the exception of letting you all know that I've cut the HR consultant from 60,000 to 35,000. Just knowing and understanding that we've made a lot of positive strides this year, and, you know, wanted to keep that same momentum going. So that's where we are with that. Are there any questions at all about any of the contractual consulting services? I think everybody understands why we have a legal counsel retainer and a legal other, but if not, let me know and I'll explain it.
And I should have said we're on page 13. I don't see any questions, sir. Go ahead with non-departmental miscellaneous.
Great. So another highlight here, Mayor and Council, per my conversation with you all, I highlighted the speed camera contractor and put their revenue at 496, that would be at the 40% of the revenue that we would receive of the 1.24. So that is a true 60-40 match. So that's what I put there. That's the only thing that I wanted to highlight in the non-departmental miscellaneous area.
Any questions, council? All right, the always exciting animal and insect control.
Yeah, that those are just things that we buy to keep on hand in the event that we have mosquitoes, if we have to do traps, or if we have to get beehives down. That's the supplies for that. The mayor and council voted a few years ago not to move forward with townwide spraying by the Maryland Department of the Engineering, of the Environment. So as a result of that, we wanted to have some money in our reserve to get certain things in the event that we needed to respond to property needs or residential concerns. So that's where we are with that.
Okay, cable television.
That's for professional services and capital equipment. So I do know that I think it's the goal of of the community to get the stage back into a actual stage so that we can have plays there. We're upgrading some things there. But for the most part, the professional services cover our ASL and the uh, contractor who we have with audio and visual. So that's where we are. Don't have anything else to add to that as of now, unless there are questions.
Council, are there any questions about the $1.382 million in expenditures in the general government on page 13?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
could I go back to under consulting services? Could I have a little more clarity of
So, sorry, what number?
under consulting services? What were the contract employees that and then the budget amount for PM utilities? And
Are you on page 13?
yes, I'm under
505, what?
so 505-133
Got it. Professional services.
PM utilities.
Okay.
I was just a little clarity on what that was for.
Sure, we can provide clarity there. So the PM utilities, that's for that's the money for our engineering services. Okay.
Okay.
So we have different vendors of engineers who we pull for different projects. And with that being said, case in point, we had one specific engineer that we needed to use for WSSC matters, right? And that one engineer assisted the town so much that it helped solve some of the problems that we had with WSSC. So that area is slotted specifically for engineering firms for utilities.
I see. Okay.
And you had another question?
And then I was just, so the other budget amounts for 135 for external studies. 505-135.
Yeah. The $1,000 that's for the air quality management. So
Okay.
we do have air quality monitors throughout the town, and I keep $1,000 there in the event one of the air quality monitors go down, or if we need to replace, we'll pull from that line right there.
Right. And then the specialty consultants, again, just as the need arises, if you need someone to be brought in.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions on page 13? All right, page 16, Mr. Galloway, this is the mayor and council.
Well, Mayor and Council, just under personnel services, we'll keep everything there. That's your salaries, the retirement, the social security. Those are kind of non-negotiable. The official expenses, that's when you all send flowers, cards, or something on behalf of the council to other councils or other organizations, depending upon what the matter is. The constituent service and strategic plan. I think I took this down to 10,000. From time to time, we'll try to update the strategic plan, but I think this line item is used specifically for the retreat for the mayor and council that you have on an annual basis. Going down to travel and training, primarily MML is a huge chunk of that expense for the summer conference. However, you also have a fall MML conference, and you also have a National League of Cities conference that some of you attend as well. So that's at $20,000. The insurance of the public officials liability, that's at $14,000. That's a number that kind of goes up and down, and that's determined by the local government insurance trust. Miscellaneous material supplies and equipment. If you all need paper, pencils, those type of things as to perform capacity as mayor and council, that's kind of where we can pull that from. As it relates to the newsletter, you all get the addition on a monthly basis. That's the total number for doing a newsletter and mailing it out. And then public information at $10,000. That is if we have to run newspaper ads for charter amendments, if we have to do things that promote or communicate to the community, whatever the needs are of the mayor and council, that's where we pull those funds from. And the Public Officials Association, those are the memberships for your organizations. And the elections we have in for $2,000. Seeing that, are there any questions?
Councilmember Brennan.
Not necessarily a question, but I just wanted to remind everyone in the meeting attendance line that we adopted a policy a few months ago that attempts to distribute that money a little equitably. So that if someone wants to go to a certain conference and someone else wants to go to a certain conference, that someone isn't taking up the entire budget going to conferences. So there's a set amount for the mayor that's a little higher, and then each council member. So maybe that's part of our rules of procedure conversation is if you know there is a conference you would like to attend beyond MML, you should bring it up sooner rather than later.
Yes, and we will have an MML discussion next week, summer MML discussion where we can lay all this out. Some of us may choose not to, and effectively you can bank that money to do something else as a council member during the fiscal year. My comment was going to be on the elections. I'm fine with the $2,000 budget. We are going to do a deep dive with the Board of Elections this summer or early fall. Of course, there is no town election in CY 26, so that should be fine, but we will make a budget adjustment if we agree this fall that the Board of Elections is lacking money. It needs more than $2,000 to do what we needed, what we all collectively want them to do. That'll be up to you. You don't have to vote for the budget adjustment, but I think that needs to wait. Put the 2K here now, and then we can plus up later, depending on what we agree with the supervisors. Are there other council questions about mayor and town council? Page 16. Okay, and Councilmember Fry and Garces are not yet with us, correct?
Councilmember Frywood.
I'm here, I'm listening.
Okay, all right. Let's make sure the record reflects that Councilmember Fry was here. All right, excellent. Hearing no questions on page 16, let's go to page 19. What?
Did you want to offer?
We only have 2 more pages of general government, and then we can go to the whole 3 million. Okay, page 19, which is general government administration. Mr. Galloway?
Okay, thank you so much. Mayor and Council, just to let you all know, at the end of your budget, you will have the job descriptions of every job in the town, along with the salary ranges based off of a 2% merit and a 1.5% COLA for this upcoming year. So going down personnel services, the salaries and wages reflect that. Overtime, we are going to keep at 20,000 flat. And we'll go down the list to hospitalization. There's been a request to change the word of hospitalization to health insurance, and that's duly noted. But outside of personnel services, are there any questions with that right now? Okay, staff development. That's travel and training for conferences for all the administrative staff. Tuition assistance, we're at 35,000 for the entire town. And just to let the new mayor and council know, we have a generous tuition assistance policy. And I can give you more details on that. So we will keep that at 35,000. And just going down the insurance costs, those are what they are. We get those from the insurance. Under the commodities, material supplies and equipment, that's the cost of doing business, of running the town with material supplies. Um, some of the miscellaneous purchases, I think we are budgeting for 5,000. There's some reallocation that needs to be done out of this line to get that under the budget, but for the most part, that's to buy like food for mayor and council events, those type of things. Because what we had been doing was getting those type of miscellaneous items and putting them and allocating them to our travel and training. So that's where we are with that. Bank services, Bill.com, and payroll. We're going to be riding steady at $8,000. And credit card fees, we're going to be right around $1,500. That's an annual fee that we pay. Other charges would be our subscriptions and memberships. Those are all of our professional memberships in the administrative office. There are some for the town administrator and the deputy town administrator, as far as ICMA, MML, NFBPA, along with the International Clerks Association. There's also some associations for code compliance that are in there as well. The consultant, accountant paychecks fees. Um, a huge chunk of this is for the consultant, accountant / treasurer, and then we also pay our payroll provider, who is paychecks, out of this line item as well. We'll get down to contractual services, recruitment and advertisement. Anytime we have to post job descriptions online or through MML or through ICMA, that's where we pull those funds from. The employee assistance program, that's an annual payment that we're under contractual obligation, and it's mandated by state mandated for the town to have one for the police department. So the EAP provider that we have covers not only the police department but the entire town, and it's at that rate of 6,500. The telephone, those are for the cell phone services that we have, along with our Ring Central telephone in the town hall. We'll go down to code compliance, code private property lots cleanup. That's in the event that we have to pay providers to go and do lot maintenance, similar to that of what of the conversation we had earlier with Councilmember Wade. And then I also see code residential parking, code uniforms. That's pretty explanatory with here. So with that being said, are there any questions?
Any questions on page 19, council?
This is a tiny number, but what exactly does code residential parking involve? Because code compliance doesn't issue tickets, right? So what is this? What are they doing? What costs us $2,000?
Code compliance can issue tickets, and
Okay.
they do issue citations. So in the event that the code needs to have cars towed, that's pretty much where the code can pull from, or any event that the code needs to do any other things related to a vehicle. That's kind of where we pull that money from.
Okay.
A part of this as well, I think this is also where we pay for our placards, and our parking passes. As far as the expenditures here, that comes out of this line item as well.
Right. For administering the parking zone program.
So that's not, those costs are not fully recouped because
Not from the $5 per permit.
yeah,
cost.
exactly. Okay.
Yep.
So there is a revenue item somewhere that encompasses the $5.
Yeah, that was $300.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then now I know it's $5. So
Right. Please get your passes.
yes, exactly.
Particularly in Ward 4, I have had Deputy Chief Kraus accelerating our parking enforcement efforts
Good.
in a number of zones.
Is there
Well,
a limit to the number of permits you can get?
For your house, there it is.
There is.
Yes. Okay, any questions on page 19? General Government Administration? Hearing none from the council, let's go to page 21, Committees and Debt Service.
Again, this is pretty explanatory. Well, these are all the committees that we have budgeted for in the past, and you'll see the new proposed budget for fiscal year 26. I do know that there was point of discussion for Cheverly Day Committee at one point to increase, but you all can have that conversation. I didn't change that number, or after the Cheverly Day Committee meets with the town, this could be something, Mayor Watson, where if it's the will of the council, we could do another budget adjustment to accommodate that line item if it's the will of the council. I'm not sure if there's been enough of a substantive conversation to move forward with increasing that without understanding some of the budget and et cetera that was requested by the council. So that's where we are with that as of right now.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. If council has views, please express them. I think the 16 is just fine as a placeholder. Cheverly Day is on my list of organizations for the council to do a work session deep dive with. Councilmember Fry had asked for a detailed budget. So my hope is that Cheverly Day will come to that deep dive, perhaps at the July work session, with a detailed budget that will be, I think, in the 30,000s range of expenditures for what a Cheverly Day costs to put on, and then we can, the council can adjust accordingly. A July discussion would still give us about 65 or 70 days to course correct before October 4th, which is Cheverly Day. So I'm fine with that. I was pleasantly surprised, I guess, that the market gets an allocation. I thought that they got a grant from the town. I'm fine if this is the way we've been doing it. I just hadn't remembered that. I think 15,000 for the grants, 535125 is is good. Would be great to do better, but are there any council comments about the 57,000 for committees? Mr. Wade.
Yeah, I know we discussed last time regarding the rec council, for the money that's being allocated. By chance, did anyone from rec council reach out to the staff regarding the money?
Yes, sir. I actually had a meeting with our representative from Rec Council this week. They've submitted their receipts from what they have spent. They've also are going to give me their budget um, so that we can move forward with it. So I indicated to them that we have budgeted for 4,500, and that I was going to recommend to the mayor and council that we keep that line item at 4,500. So there was some confusion on how they could use the card. We cleared that up. So moving forward, I do anticipate this line item being utilized to its full capacity.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Just again, asking the question because on the line item, it does reflect that it hasn't been used in the past. Not saying the rec council hasn't done that in the past, but just thank you for the clarification regarding it. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then debt service is what it is, $539,000 for the bond payment on the building. And that brings us to $3.181 million for this section, the general government section of the budget. Are there any other comments about the 3.1 million section from council or from the public?
I have one question.
Yes, please come to one of the microphones so the interpreter can hear you. I think there's only 2 mics.
Thank you. Lane Thompson, Ward 3. Just a pure question on item 505.120. That's under contractual and consulting services on page 13. Arborist consultant. I am just curious. Obviously, we went for a big increase on the budget in 2025, but it doesn't look like there were actuals. Could you give more clarity on what's happening with those items there? And also what that line item includes? Is that, I know we have a program here in town whereby residents can request an arborist come out to their properties. In fact, I've been meaning to do that myself and take advantage of that. Is that only for that program, or is that also for an arborist that's consulting on general trees throughout the town? And yes, just would love to know more about that.
No, thank you so much for that question. That's a great question, and I will tell you that the arborist consultant only charges us one time a year, and it's close to the end of the budget. So yeah, we will be paying him when it's due coming up soon. But the arborist consultant is a consultant specifically for the town to go out and do work on behalf of the town. We have a lot of street trees. We have a lot of trees in alleys. We have a lot of things that we need advisement and consulting on so that we can be advised properly and move forward with. So those are the fees for our PhD arborist consultant, Dr. Feathers. So yes, that's what it's always been used for. As far as personal consultant, that there is an opportunity for individual houses to pay the consultant to come out and advise you on your private property matters. But as far as public matter concerns, this is for the town's arborist consultant.
Okay, thank you. And so the fee that we pay, that a resident pays when they do that request for their home consultation, does that fully cover the cost of the arborist coming out and doing that work at the resident's home?
The fee that you pay for the arborist to come out and provide the recommendation, yes, just the fee, not the actual work.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, hearing no further questions on that section, My chronometer indicates we have about 35 minutes left, so that gives us approximately 10 minutes per department if we include capital as its own department. So with that in mind, let us move to page 24, Police Department. Who will present the police budget?
Thank you, Deputy Chief, and I will.
Please, go ahead.
Just in the interest of time, Mr. Mayor, we'll keep this very high level. The police department budget has been presented several times. For the purposes of the two new council members, I do want to point to a couple of areas that would seem like significant increases, but they're actually cost neutral, but I want to explain that. So if we can take a look at the under the personal services for the salaries, it's got the 105.4 is WMATA. It's 261,000. We contract with WMATA to provide security services at the Cheverly Metro Station. That's reimbursed back to the town. It's under the revenue side. So it comes back, it's a cost neutral. And in fact, the contract that we have is the amount of about $290,000. So we charge administrative fees for administering the program. So that's one thing that's significant. The other point that I want to, or the other area that I want to point to, two things, and it's down under operating costs, is Axon for $62,000 and fuel. Axon is our body-worn cameras, our in-car cameras, the devices on our holsters that when we draw a firearm, it automatically activates our body-worn cameras and the in-car cameras. That's a contract that we signed, a 5-year contract, so that's just a contractual fees on an annual basis. The other thing is the fuel for $45,000. The fuel amounts, the cost for fuel was being taken out of the public works budget. We felt that it was important to demonstrate to the community that what it costs to fuel our vehicles for the police department. So that was deducted from public works and moved over to the police department's budget. So if we take a look just at the bottom line of the 3.639 million, if we subtract the 261 WMATA, if we subtract the 62,000 for Axon, and we subtract the $45,000, actually brings our bottom line budget down to 3.271. So our overall budget between 25 and 26 only increased to $16,043. So I just want to point that out. The other area that I want to point out is the under miscellaneous, under commodities, 600.170. Previously, there was $15,000. We took that down to $2,000 and we reallocated those funds into other areas that we thought were critically important. As your chief, I didn't like a category that said miscellaneous. It's, although we have receipts for everything we spend, we wanted to make sure that we were putting the money where it actually got spent. So we increased our travel and training from 50,000 to 55. We increased our materials and supplies from 20,000 to 21,500. We increased professional associations from 2,500 to 4,000. And we added an additional 5,000 to our community engagement. That's the $13,000 deduction from miscellaneous and reallocated to those other areas. So with that, the personal services, the salaries and recruitment and retention, overtime costs are all listed in here. We did take initially had overtime as one category in order to better define where that overtime is spent. We divided it into operational necessity, court, and special events. Operational necessity being self-explanatory, court being self-explanatory, special events being Cheverly Day, Public Safety Day, National Night Out, and the other events that we participate in throughout the town. We also pay our officers bilingual pay. That looks like an increase on here. We had it factored into the salary line, base salary line under FY25. We divided it and moved it out so we show that what we're actually paying. That bilingual pay amounts to $1 per hour for 2,080 hours for each officer that's bilingual. And I will tell you, every one of those services are used on a regular basis. Retirement pension, everything else under that category under the bilingual pay is self-explanatory. Travel and training is significant. The police department spends a lot of money in training. We're getting ready to put 2 recruits into a police academy at $7,500 per recruit for the academy. So right there, we're looking at $15,000. And unfortunately, even if those individuals don't successfully complete the academy, we don't get that money back. That's a lost expense. So we're very judicious in making sure that the individuals that we're recruiting have the cognitive abilities, the critical thinking skills, and the physical conditioning and the emotional stability to hopefully succeed. And I want to just turn over to the deputy chief briefly to kind of walk through the process that we have to put our officers, our recruits through before we make a conditional offer of employment, before we're hiring someone to put them into the academy.
So I know Mayor and Council, some know the process, but for the new council members, let's walk you through it. And I think it's very critical for you to understand that we don't just, obviously hire right off the street. It is over a year process. It is approximately 3 months for a background, which includes psychological exam, drug testing, physical agility testing, background check, polygraph or voice stress analysis. That takes about 3 months. We have to find them an academy. We have to pay for an academy. That's 8 months that they're in an academy. And that's if they make it through the academy. That's firearms, driving, and everything you would need to know to be a police officer. After that, it can be up to 3 or 4 months of FTO, field training officers, where they're assigned with a police officer. And even at that stage, they can either decide it's not a good fit for them, or we can decide it's not a good fit for them. So you're looking at well over a year-long process for every officer you hire. Now, the alternative to that would be to hire an experienced police officer, understanding that comes with a much higher starting salary, because a lot of the experienced police officers have already done a career in law enforcement, have a great deal of experience, and we're fortunate to have the ones that we were able to get. But we also need to balance that out with new recruits. So I think it's very important for the mayor and council to understand that this is a very lengthy, very detailed process. And for probably every 20 applicants you get, you might find one qualified person that can actually make it even through the background to hire. So I just wanted to give you an overview of how that all works so that you understand that it's not that simple to hire a police officer and what that entails for the future.
And I'll just add that the number one challenge facing the 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the country is recruitment and retention. And we are particularly challenged in the Washington metropolitan area because there are so many agencies, state, local, and federal, that are all vying for the same limited quality personnel. So I think we've done an excellent job. 23 months now since I started. When I got here, we were down to 4 officers out of an authorized strength of 20. We're at 17 now, and as I said, we're getting ready to hire 2 more. We did freeze 2 positions in the upcoming budget for 6 months. So I look at that as either freezing 2 for 6 months or freezing 1 for a year. It's not ideal, but we also recognize that we had a responsibility in working with town staff and the mayor and council to make sure that we're trying to come in at a flat budget with no tax increases. So that's where we stand right now. I do want to point out a number of cost-saving measures. This was in the presentation that we provided mayor and council previously, and these were for the department. The department had deadlined 10 vehicles. We resurrected 6 of them at a cost of about $25,000 to bring them back into full service. But that resulted in a cost savings of not having to purchase new vehicles and all of the upfitting costs. So we're looking at probably close to $400,000 in savings by resurrecting those. The other 4 that we could not resurrect simply because of the high mileage and significant maintenance issues, they were recently auctioned off on govdeals.com. We also saved significant money by outfitting the police department with desks and equipment that we were able to get off of Facebook at a very limited costs, thanks to the deputy chief, because I don't have Facebook. And likewise, and this was significant as well, the upfitting costs of the vehicles, when we're talking upfitting, we're talking light bars, we're talking computers, CAD systems, and everything else. But we're also talking mobile radios in the car and portable radios that the officers carry. And we were able to, the deputy chief was able to secure on loan from the county indefinitely radios for both in the car as well as portable radios, saving us about $120,000 in the current fiscal year that we would have had to spend. I point that out because goodwill only goes so far, and as we move into the next fiscal year, we're going to have to look at vehicle purchases and the upfitting costs and securing the radios. And the deputy chief may have to go back to her baked goods to bribe the county for some more radios, but I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. But that did result in about $500,000 worth of savings overall. So, are there any questions?
We have about 5 minutes left for police. Let me just say that if you get into a pickle where you have an officer that you want to make an offer to, and you can only do so to unfreeze one of the positions, let's have another conversation in whatever month that occurs in. Okay, questions for police in our 4.5 minutes.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Galloway.
Hey, Mayor, one thing that I do want to let you all know, the 4 vehicles that were auctioned, they were auctioned to town of Cheverly staff. And that was through the policy that the mayor and council passed. So I did want to put a little emphasis on that because, that was a piece of equipment, well, four vehicles that went to our staff.
It's awesome.
Thank you for that. Mr. Wade.
Yeah, just real comment. Thank you all again for all you do. Creative ways to save in the town, our taxpayers' money. Just speaking of, so the residents know about the level of recruitment, just me working in the county, how many officers that we are down in Prince George's County, which covers the county as a whole. If you know any data numbers of that, how many officers down in the county as a whole, and what we're competing with regarding that in the town.
So currently Prince George's County Police is down 479 officers and WMATA's down over 300.
Right.
So, and those are our biggest bordering agencies.
Right. So that just speaks to the fact, the level of knowledge, resources that people still want to come to Cheverly versus going to the county level. We thank you for that.
Our goal is to create a culture within the department, within the town, where folks want to work and feel welcome, they feel included, they feel valued. Deputy Chief and I are retired from the Prince George's County Police Department. It's one of the best police departments in the country. The Deputy County Administrator is also retired from Prince George's County, if you see a pattern here. But it is what it is, and it's and 479 officers, that's the backup on the street. And that's why the county police department has collapsed from 5 shifts to 4. That's why they've gone from 10-hour workdays to 12-hour workdays. And that's why they're now seeing an attrition rate that's significantly higher than what they've seen in years past. But they are not alone. The only agency that I know of in the state that is fully staffed right now is Harford County Sheriff's Office. It's just it's a different environment. It's a different job, sheriff versus police. But every other agency is competing for the same numbers. I had a conversation with the captain in the training education division for Anne Arundel County the other day, in case we need a spot in their academy for a recruit. And they're looking at a class of 28. They are over hiring to the degree that they can, fully aware of the fact that they're going to probably lose half of that class in the training and education. So either because they can't do it academically, they can't do it physically, or they decide that this is not a career for them. So thank you, Councilman Wade. We're working hard. The deputy chief is a one person recruiting tool here. So
all right, we got 90 seconds left on police. Council members, anything?
If I can.
Oh, Mr. Galloway, yes.
Yeah. So I do want to compliment the chief and the deputy chief on their leadership. Just to piggyback a little bit on Councilmember Wade. I do know municipalities that are near us that are not in the position that we're in. Our top 3 leadership positions can go to anywhere in the country and be either the chief or in any type of top command position. And I'm so glad that we have Chief Morris, Deputy Chief Krause, and Lieutenant Gleason on the team of Cheverly because that's going to help us moving forward. So, no, that's all I wanted to say, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Was there a comment from the public? Can you, hold on. Can you hand this?
Sure.
Mayor Ellen, Ms. McGuire, Ward 2. I just want to say, if you're in the Army, you'd be a damn good sergeant. Too bad you're, well, Army needs you, if you could, but glad Charlie has you.
Sorry, sir, I was a sailor.
Oh, so you reach out. There's Army, so U.S. Army, so you.
All right, thank you for that. Let us move on to page 33, Public Works. Who is providing the Public Works overview?
Mr. Mayor, I'm here on Zoom.
Oh, I'm glad to hear from you. How are you, Mr. Brayman?
I've been better, but I'm chugging along here tonight. Thank you all very much. Good evening.
We won't keep you too long.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council. Some of you have just briefly met. I look forward to getting to know you better, and also to the town of Cheverly. If I may, just before Public Works, it has been very impressive to see the Cheverly Police Department stand up, so to speak. So congrats, Chief Morris and Chief Krause. Public Works. All right, just to go over in a high level view. In the past two presentations, I've spoken about that we're coming in overall less than last year. We're still at that. I believe we're at about 150 plus thousand out of general funds. You're going to see some accounts that are tied to some grants and different things. And so Diane Mock had brought that out previously. But anywho, the thing in the personnel services I wanted to highlight was, we do have 4 frozen labor positions. So we have been leaning on a temporary labor service. And that's the one area that we're ticking up there. That's about 3 laborers throughout the year. When we use these contract laborers, we don't have all the fringe benefits that you see in these other areas. And so I estimate that for every person, that's about a $22,000 savings in fringe benefits. I'll try to speed read here. Travel and training, we're remaining flat there. MML will boost us up at the end of the year. As you can see, that's fluctuated over the years, but we have staff on now that will wants to do more training. The insurance cost is something that legit bases on our fleet. Commodities, and they're remaining flat. You can see that those vary up and down. We don't necessarily try to spend all of our monies, but from time to time we need all that money. With the Ely building coming on, this is an area that I anticipate us to lean heavily on. Other charges, that's for some subscriptions and memberships to the American Public Works Association. There's also a MML chapter, and there's also a Parks and Rec group that we sometimes attend and join. In the professional services, we're actually ticking down in the uniforms and safety gear. You can see that while we have hit 35 before, we look like we can come in less than that. The security system, we ticked that up because I anticipate the Ely building to be a higher cost for a security system. And then in radio repair, we're remaining flat with $1,000. So for me, just to continue on. So I had mentioned earlier, there were a lot of line items. You will see down at the bottom here that we have a host of line items that are tied to the Ely building, ARPA, various funding mechanisms, CDBG, general fund, which we've gone through with ARPA, a series of recoding and codings. We're trying to work on narrowing that down, which you'll see on the next page, to just asphalt and concrete, and then as to the funding source that it may be. But here you can see, though, that there's the equipment replacement. We're actually ticking that down slightly. The other line items here are actually outside funding. So if we go down over to the next page, street repair, that will tick up with the potholes, but basically potholes and some other things associated with roads are what we code there. The snow and ice, we're maintaining flat at 25,000. Traffic control, we did tick up over that this year, but we think 30,000 is a steady rate that we can maintain. And then here's where the asphalt and concrete, our HUR money went up, or I have a more accurate figure this year. So Mr. Galloway, I think, commented on that. So the 373 going up from 299. While this is in expenses, that's actually a plus. So we have the $50,000 from general fund. I'm always going to preach that we spend some general fund money on asphalt and concrete, even if we have a lot of HUR. And I think I'd commented earlier that, you know, with ARPA funds and the infrastructure, we did a lot of work on the west side. There's also a large WSSC water project that's going to start over on the west side. So one of the priorities is to look at the east side, so like 63rd and Laurel, and of course Wayne Place. That particularly that first block is an area of concern. We're trying to get WSSC out of our way, though. Streetlights, we had some discussion about that recently. The top line basically pays for the electricity that ebbs and flows. I believe we're going to be catching up with some of that as more daylight or as the bills come in. But I just lost my place there, so I'm trying to use my own. And then the $25,000. Right now, we're going to try to focus that $25,000 to be on the LED replacement. And so I did, Sue Ellen Ferguson did update me recently that Pepco has at least agreed to meet on discussing a disconnect switch that they want. And there's going to be a discussion about how maintenance may occur if we buy our streetlights. I think when we get to the capital program, you'll see a little estimate of maybe converting over several years. But what will happen is while the lights will go up, the electricity will go down, and so that'll be a plus there. The stormwater management, that's mainly the yard, although you see that we had a lot for ARPA. I believe that's coded elsewhere, though. But the MOU is the Crestlawn and Parkway Place projects. And so I'm anticipating on submitting for a reimbursement here very soon, and anticipate receiving that hopefully this fiscal year. But we rolled some things over in some other areas because, as you can see, that was last year's, but the project actually came forward and was completed in this fiscal year. And so tree service, we've ticked that down a little bit. Earlier, there was a question. We have a very active street tree program. All street trees are actually regulated by the state. We actually have a very active tree planting program as well, both for public and public street trees and park trees as well as private. The park supplies, we've ticked that down slightly, and we've held steady with our park tools and equipment. And the POS money, there's an area where we rolled it forward because we haven't spent it yet. I believe Mr. Galloway commented on that is focused on the Kilmer pathway, but we're going to have to find an additional funding source for that as well. The garage equipment, auto repairs, vehicle repair parts, we ebb and flow there, but that's to keep the fleet up. One of the things that I'm hoping to do is with the new Ely building and having a viable garage, get back to supporting the police department. I think there's, I can't quantify it yet, but I think over a year or two or three, we'll be able to see some savings from internal work. But that helps keep the fleet up, both within Public Works, but actually recently said that I might be able to cover some repairs for the police as well. Garage tools and equipment, we did tick that up with a new garage. Garage consumables, I think, is remaining flat. Tires and tubes, we ticked that down. We're actually using different vendors, and we're doing much better on tires over the past 2 years. Database there, we ticked that up because, Well, that's a database for our lead mechanic to be able to test both the trucks, and I've asked them to get the diesel trucks and also to get a gas one to be able to monitor and scan the gas vehicles. And that database actually gives him technical support as well. And gas, oil, and grease, I think the chief remarked upon, used to all be all in my budget. We're going to be over this year because it's all getting coded there, but $60,000 is probably going to be enough for the Public Works Department. If we continue on, the landfill, the tipping fees are going up, and so we estimated our tonnage, and that's increasing from 130 to 150. And we don't really have a choice on that. We did tick down our organic material recycling or mulch. The sanitation material supplies, I think, is remaining flat. The compost bins and rain barrels, we ticked that up, anticipating having more storage and being able to buy some of the things that we do sell to the residents, such as toters, but composting and rain barrels. And I think the other, we ticked down the single stream recycling, and I think that's it. So that gets us to the bottom of the budget. And again, I think overall, this figure here is there's general fund line items, and there's also some of the other outside funding line items there. But overall, I don't know if it's reflected here exactly. It isn't. But Diane had previously indicated that we were about 100,000 under, and we've done some more cuts to help with the budget along the way. So, Mr. Mayor, I hope that was a fair summary in quick order.
Thank you for that. Council, are there any quick questions for Public Works? All right, thank you, Mr. Brayman. Let us move now expeditiously to the Capital Improvement Program. Council, this was reinstated last year to give us a mechanism to project out-year expenditures on capital projects. We are going to start on page 39. So the project is described on the page, and then 2026 is the current FYI. So if there's no money there, it's not being budgeted for this year. But for example, on page 39, there is $200,000 anticipated in the plan for 2027 for the roof of this building. I imagine that in the future, this will either need to be combined with an Ely building capital plan, or they'll have to be separate. But at some point, we're going to need a page for the Ely building for its capital maintenance. Moving on to page 40, this is the streetlights. $25,000 for LED conversions in the current year. I'm going to keep going. Please put your hand up if there's any questions. Land acquisition is on page 41. I put a star next to this. I would like us to put some money in this for private property acquisition. Mr. Galloway, so if you can make a note to see if we can squeeze any money up to 26 for this. We need not spend it, but if it's not on page 41, we will not have it to spend it.
How much would you all like to put there?
Can we try 50,000 and see where that leads the bottom line?
Yeah, so if we do 50,000, that's going to take our bottom line up to 370,000 in the negative.
Okay. We'll put an asterisk on that then. All right, I do think we should, I would ask that we put the 50 there for now. We can discuss it again next week. Page 42, this is the, this is curb appeal, but it's essentially, the only item on here is to replace the entryway for this particular building, and it's 2 years down the road. Page 43, town park development has no money in it. I would like to see money in here, at least. It doesn't have to be for 26,
But my hope is that at some point, we're going to build an acceptable pathway in the park, the town park at 6401 Forest Road. So whether that's 27 or 28 or 29, I don't think that we should have 5 years of zeros here. Just my own personal thought. Moving on to 44, page 44, this is Cheese Park. Nothing for 26 and 100K for 27 for asphalt crosswalk. Page 45 is Boyd Park. I do want the narrative for Boyd Park to be changed to reflect all the good. The last thing it says is that we renovated the restrooms. We've spent a ton of money since 2023 there, including on the surfacing. So we should reflect that in the narrative. And I defer to council whether you are aware of any capital dollars that should be put in to page 45. Uh, 46 is Woodworth Park. I think the narrative is roughly up to date because it reflects the fence, so that is good, and $0 there. Page 47, Kilmer Park. This is POS money, and this 165,000 for 26. Does that sound right to you, Councilmember Briner?
Yes,
Okay.
hopefully to be supplemented with grant funding.
Yes, we do know that 165 will not buy the pathway. But this is the town taxpayers portion of what we hope will be in probably nearly 50-50 split. Page 48, Councilmember Wade, do you have any views on page 48?
I would hope that if not this upcoming year, the year after, that we would at least put something down, ideally in 2026 for it. I can second what Councilmember Briner mentioned and thought other aspects of funding, but for us to look at something in the near future regarding that. Again, west of the parkway, there's no park or anything for the residents that live over there regarding that aspect. So we're still building on that. Thank you for Diane Beadle and her, as well as AWS and everyone that's working on that, but for the town to look at some funding regarding that, but ideally come from grants, but for us to put something down would be great.
Yeah, and I think we need a comprehensive plan separate from the dollars for the park, and I don't think we have a park plan for 5701, but I'm certainly very open to that. Page 49 is the Ely Building. Vice Mayor, you were correct. I forgot it was over here. It is a bitter pill to have the narrative written as it is that we're moving into the building in December 2024. We are not. And I believe this page reflects the mandatory bond payment only, which should be fine for now. By 2030, we might need to be doing some actual capital maintenance to the building, but I can't look that, my brain can't look that far out. Page 50 is road repair and resurfacing. And I believe Mr. Galloway and Mr. Brayman are spending money on these items through the regular budget and not through the CIP. Page 51 is the entrance sign for green space improvements. I would really like us to get started on this. I defer to the Ward 4 council member if he would like to engage the community this year on, I want this to happen, but I don't live in the southeast part of Cheverly. And so if there's need for planning money in 26, I think it should be reflected on page 51. If we don't need any planning money, but we just want to start the planning, that would be fine with me too. But I would like to not continue to not start the planning for this sign. So I'm going to dump that in your lap, Councilmember Stanzi. And again, I defer to staff on whether we need money on this page, but I don't want to 12 months from now us to be where we are today on the sign. Page 52, vehicle and uplifting is frozen for the current year. And that takes us to page 53, which is the capital improvement overview. Mr. Galloway, did I get anything wrong? Ms. Abdul, did I get anything wrong? Okay, council, any comments on the CIP plan? Councilmember Bryan.
I just want to underline here on this summary page that all of this, like, all of these expenses are already reflected in the budget. So we're not adding this to our total expenses. This is already baked in.
Yeah, that's right. All the money in those beautiful pages of, I think it's 14 or 18 pages, are all included in the expenses on page 6. Yes, and all of the pages add up to that page, but all of that money, I think I talked my way up to about $850,000 so far. All of that is on page 6 in the expenses.
With the exception of the $50,000.
You want to add?
Right. Right, I know, but it's not a separate budget, to the vice mayor's point. And that I think bears repeating. Oh, surprise. All right, are there any other, seeing as we are at 7:30, council, any other comments? Yes.
I had a quick question for Mr. Galloway, which is, we do have a slight deficit dipping into the fund balance, but that doesn't impact our bond rating, does it? Because we're meant to have a balanced budget, but I know there's a little bit of wiggle room in there.
Yeah, we have a little bit of wiggle room that should not impact our fund balance. I have to create a plan to notify our bond provider, or our bond rating provider, letting them know what our plan is moving forward. Because at one point we were on a 3-year of 5 cents of the tax increase. And unfortunately, due to the economic capacity of that, that's not going to be feasible for the town, and which they'll understand, but also the approach on annexation is going to be a little different. So I'll be optimistic about annexation moving forward.
Great, thank you.
Council, if all hearts are clear, then I will move on to item 6, which is the reading of the ordinance, and then we will be able to adjourn at your pleasure. Okay. Town of Cheverly, Ordinance 2025-3 Budget Ordinance for the 2026 fiscal year. This is the first reader and introduction, council. An ordinance whereby the town of Cheverly adopts a budget for fiscal year 2026, which begins on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2026, uncodified. Whereas Article 7, Section C23A2 of the Charter of the Town of Cheverly grants to the mayor and council the power to appropriate and expend funds for any purpose deemed to be public. And whereas each fiscal year of the town commences on July 1 and ends by the following June 30 pursuant to Section C32 of the Charter of the town. And whereas the mayor and council have, prior to each fiscal year, adopted a budget to govern the appropriation and expenditure of funds for the next fiscal year. And whereas after numerous discussions and meetings, the mayor and town council have prepared a budget for fiscal year 2026 containing anticipated revenues and proposed appropriations and expenditures for said fiscal year. And whereas said budget, as discussed at numerous public meetings by the mayor and council, is attached hereto as Exhibit A. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the mayor and council of Cheverly in regular session assembled that the budget for fiscal year 2026 containing anticipated revenues and proposed expenditures by the town, which budget is attached hereto as Exhibit A and is hereby incorporated by reference, be and hereby is adopted for the fiscal year 2026 to take effect July 1, 2025 until June 30, 2026. Yeah, right. Yeah. But again, this is the first introduction. And be it further ordained that this budget shall govern the expenditure of funds by the town during the fiscal year 2026. And be it further ordained that the mayor and town council may, from time to time, during the fiscal year, amend this budget by motions made, discussed, and carried so long as any action regarding this budget is taken at a public meeting. After notice and a public discussion, and the amendments to the budget for the entire fiscal year do not increase the total expenditures by more than 10% of the total expenditures figure appearing on attached Exhibit A. And be it there further ordained that this ordinance shall take effect on July 1, 2025. However, provided that a fair summary of the ordinance is published at least once in a newspaper of general circulation in the town of Cheverly. Introduced by the mayor and town council of the town of Cheverly, Maryland, at a regular meeting on May 15, 2025, at which meeting copies were available to the public for inspection. That concludes my reading of the ordinance and its first introduction. The final item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, before you do that, I just wanted to let you know, I will be, after having a discussion with certain council members, mayor, what I'll do is I'm going to provide a written document that highlights some historical reasons why numbers have been increased. And I'll be working on that with town staff moving forward, so that will be a modification to the actual document, along with some of the narratives that you have in there. Another thing that I wanted to let you know before you adjourn is you have to go into closed session before you adjourn.
Yes, thank you. So why don't we adjourn this meeting and then we'll convene the open to close meeting?
You don't have to do an open close. You can go into closed session from here if you want to. Either way, it's fine.
I'd like to adjourn. I prefer to adjourn this meeting for 5 minutes and then convene the other meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, it was made by Councilmember Garces, seconded by Vice Mayor Briner. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0. This meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene in 5 minutes.